The question occupying every serious analyst of this conflict is no longer whether Iranian missiles and drones are striking American military assets with precision. The visual record settles that. The question is how. How does a nation under comprehensive technological sanctions for decades systematically cut off from the satellite infrastructure that modern precision strike capability requires, achieve the targeting accuracy documented over the past 16 days against American naval vessels, air assets, and military installations across the Gulf? The answer has been confirmed by American intelligence officials speaking to the Washington Post, corroborated by the New York Times, the Associated Press, and Reuters. Russia is feeding Iran real-time satellite targeting coordinates. Moscow is transmitting the precise locations of American warships in the Gulf, aircraft at coalition bases, and the priority sequence of which installations to strike first directly to Iranian military planners. The American officials who disclosed this described the intelligence as exquisite. That is their word. High-fidelity, military-grade satellite data flowing from Moscow to Tehran, enabling a country that could not independently build that targeting picture to strike with the accuracy this conflict's operational record confirms. Subscribe to the report right now and turn on notifications. What is being confirmed here is not a regional confrontation between the United States and Iran. It is a direct strategic collision between two nuclear-armed powers operating through a proxy architecture, and the implications reach into every dimension of this war's trajectory. 3 officials with access to classified intelligence detailed the Russian targeting support to the Washington Post. The report has not been denied by the Pentagon, the State Department, or the White House in any substantive form. The press secretary said it simply does not matter. A Republican congressman stated most Americans regard it as irrelevant. And the president, when asked directly by a Fox News reporter whether Russia was supplying coordinates to help Iran strike American assets, called the question stupid and pivoted to collegiate athletics. That response pattern is analytically significant. Governments deny false claims. They deflect and change the subject when the claim is true, but engaging it directly creates consequences more dangerous than appearing to ignore it. The reason Washington cannot confront this claim head-on becomes clear once you understand the position it creates. For years, the United States supplied Ukraine with satellite coordinates and real-time battlefield data, enabling strikes against Russian military assets inside Russia. Russia complained through every diplomatic channel, arguing that providing targeting intelligence for strikes on Russian soil constituted direct participation in the conflict. Washington rejected that argument consistently. Russia is now doing to American military assets in the Gulf exactly what Washington did to Russian assets in Ukraine. The symmetry is complete, the coordinates flow, the missiles follow, American ships burn, and the administration that spent years arguing intelligence provision does not constitute direct participation cannot now argue the reverse without exposing the contradiction that position requires. The strategic logic driving Moscow goes deeper than symmetry or retaliation. The Strait of Hormuz carries approximately 20% of globally traded oil and roughly 80% of the oil China's economy requires to function. If the United States succeeds in replacing the Iranian government with one aligned to American interests, the power controlling the world's most consequential energy choke point shifts from an independent regional actor to an American client state. That outcome hands Washington leverage over China's economic viability that neither Moscow nor Beijing can accept. For Russia specifically, Iran is its last significant strategic partner in the Middle East. The Syrian presence is gone. Iran is what remains of Russia's regional architecture. Losing Tehran to American-aligned regime change would eliminate Russia's final foothold and sever the partnership most valuable to Moscow since the Ukraine conflict began, including the Iranian drone supply Russian forces have deployed in Ukraine, directly connecting the two theaters. China's role operates through different mechanisms, but is no less structurally important. Beijing maintains strategic ambiguity, not neutrality. China continues purchasing Iranian oil in local currencies through arrangements engineered to render American financial infrastructure irrelevant. And China provides the microelectronics Iranian drone manufacturing depends on. The Shahed drones burning through American interceptor stockpiles in the Gulf are built with Chinese components. Without that supply chain, Iran's drone industrial base could not sustain its current production rate. The three-sided support architecture, Russian satellite targeting intelligence, Russian air defense technology, Chinese microelectronics, is what the past 16 days reflect. Iran's precision. Iran's ability to sustain 54 waves of strikes without exhausting its inventory. Iran's demonstrated capacity to hit moving naval assets in open water. None of that is attributable to Iranian indigenous capability alone. It is the product of a strategic partnership built specifically to resist exactly the kind of American military pressure this operation was designed to apply. Trump's response to the Fox News reporter warrants analysis beyond the obvious. The president was asked whether a nuclear-armed adversary was actively supplying coordinates to help destroy American military assets. He called the question stupid and talked about college sports. The press secretary said it does not matter. That sequence reveals the strategic trap the administration is in. Thoughtful acknowledging Russian intelligence provision creates an unavoidable demand for escalatory action against Moscow, but escalating against Russia while managing an active Gulf conflict with carrier groups repositioned, airspace contested, Marines deployed, and the Strait mined is an overextension the current operational picture cannot support. So instead, the administration is moving in the opposite direction. Sanctions relief has been extended to Moscow. The framing is energy market stabilization. The analytical translation is straightforward. Washington knows Russia is enabling Iranian strikes against American assets, cannot respond with force, and is offering economic benefits in exchange for what it hopes will be Russian moderation. Whether that transaction works depends on whether Moscow values sanctions relief more than its strategic interest in Iranian survival. Based on Putin's current diplomatic positioning across the Gulf, the answer appears to be no. Putin's outreach to the UAE, Qatar, and Bahrain is not peripheral to this conflict. Russia is positioning itself as the mediating party for Gulf Arab security, offering to communicate with Iran on their behalf, to advocate for a halt to strikes on their infrastructure. Condition Iran has communicated is consistent: cease allowing American forces to use your airspace and bases, and the strikes stop. That offer puts Gulf governments in an acutely uncomfortable position. The American protection framework is being measured against the operational reality that hosting American military infrastructure is drawing Iranian strikes their citizens are paying for in destroyed refineries and evacuated airports. Russia is offering managed de-escalation, and that offer is becoming more attractive than continuing to absorb damage in exchange for guarantees that have not prevented it. The Ukraine-Iran connection is the thread that binds these two conflicts into a single strategic framework. Ukrainian soldiers who learned to fight Iranian-designed drones on the Ukrainian battlefield are now advising Gulf forces on countering the same systems. On the other side, Russia is supplying Iran with the satellite intelligence enabling the precision strike record of the past 16 days. The knowledge flows in both directions across both theaters simultaneously. These are not separate conflicts managed by independent actors. They are connected dimensions of a strategic competition between two alliance structures, the American-led Western Order and the Russia-China-Iran axis, conducted across two geographic locations with shared actors, shared technologies, and shared strategic stakes. Thoughtful, the official narrative treats them as separate. The adversary coalition is not making that distinction. The confirmed facts are stark. Russia is providing Iran with satellite targeting coordinates for American military assets, confirmed by 3 intelligence officials and corroborated by multiple major outlets. American assets have been struck with precision Iranian indigenous capability cannot explain. The administration's response has been dismissal and sanctions relief toward Moscow. China is sustaining Iranian drone production and bypassing American financial leverage. Ukrainian expertise is deployed in the Gulf countering systems Russia used in Ukraine. And a conflict described 16 days ago as a brief military operation has become a direct strategic confrontation between nuclear-armed powers conducted through layered proxy intelligence-sharing architectures. The operational record, 54 waves of strikes, repositioned carrier groups, mined waterways, destroyed infrastructure, Marines deployed without established air superiority, describes something considerably different from a campaign advancing toward defined objectives against a degraded adversary. Subscribe to the report and turn on notifications when the Russian intelligence story develops further, when Gulf diplomatic conversations produce visible outcomes, when the technology transfer picture between these theaters clarifies. The analysis will be here. Thoughtful primary sources, operational evidence, the connections the official narrative keeps artificially separate. Evidence first, analysis second. What it means for you always.